This person's name is called Christian Rodrigo Montesino Sanzana. I've not seen the charges filed with this one yet, but I'm sure they're coming. Was busted in Miami on Sunday after he and another illegal were caught. First guy got caught, Mario. This next guy is called Christian. And here's a picture of this guy, Christian Rodrigo Montesino Sanzana, second illegal. Also got wrapped up, right? It looks like the photos that we saw the first one. Both of them now caught, telling us that he was released into the U.S. in January 2021. Thanks, Joe, for doing that. Despite U.S. Border Patrol issuing him a notice of expedited removal. So it's weird. It's like he's already had a ton of due process, but he's still in the country. Now, if we want to remove him, liberals start to scream that there is no due process. He was apprehended trying to sneak across the southern border in December. They caught him, let him in anyways. There you go. And now we got to fight to deport them out? How much due process did they afford all these people who they stole their purses? Zero. So, thank you for confirming to us that there are double standards that exist. We want them all in, but you'll do everything that we can to get them back out. His arrest came shortly after Mario got nailed. Charges against him are pending. We'll see those drop, no doubt about it. They stole the purse from Kristi Noem. And now
this is the biggest Knights of Columbus I've ever seen.
That is good news. And they're happy about that, celebrating about it. And the White House is responding to a lot of this. In fact, this morning, Margot Martin posted this over from the White House lawns, and I'm sure you've seen this, causing a lot of ruckus out there, especially on the cables, because the cables are going to have these signs showing up behind them when they're doing their fake news propaganda broadcasts. So Margot posted this, says, look at all these people who have been arrested. And we're curious to see if the Democrats will show up there.
No, it's not Sheets.
Jail cells like they did with Kilbar, another MS-13 gang.
Guy's not even looking good. Go ahead.
Look at the charges here. Charges against kids, women, drugs, guns, many crimes against kids that are just disgusting. Homicides, more assaults, tons of them, right? And the list could go on and on. This is just obviously a very small snippet of what is out there. The numbers are in thousands and much more. So she posted that. The White House was also out talking about this, clearing up a lot of the fake news. There was this ridiculous story that like a 2-year-old was deported or something.
Well, I'm in defiance still. I'm just getting ready to leave. I just had some food.
Totally ridiculous. But the fake news really doesn't have much else to do with talking about. Their entire party's crumbling. Nobody likes them. Talk about how to lop off genitals and things. And now we see Marco Rubio coming out to correct the record. Here's what he said.
Our audience, 3 U.S. citizen children have been deported with their mothers. Now, this is according to the Washington Post. The family's lawyer says one of them is a 4-year-old with stage 4 cancer, deported without medication or ability to contact doctors. The family's lawyers are also saying their clients were denied communication with family and legal representatives before being deported, and it's raising concerns about the issue of due process, that it's being violated. So let me ask you, is everyone on U.S. soil, citizens and non-citizens, entitled to due process?
Yes, of course. But let me tell you, it looks at an immigration standing. The laws are very specific. If you're in this country unlawfully, you have no right to be here and you must be removed. That's what the law says. Somehow over the last 20 years, we've completely lost this notion that somehow or completely adopted this idea that yes, we have immigration laws, but once you come into our country illegally, it triggers all kinds of rights that can keep you here indefinitely. That's why we were being flooded at the border. And we've ended that. And that's why you see a historically low number of people not just trying to cross our border, trying to cross the border into Panama, all the way down in the Darien Gap. I mean, it's been a huge help for those countries as well. On the headline, that's a misleading headline. Okay, 3 U.S. citizens, ages 4, 7, and 2, were not deported. Their mothers, who are legally in this country, were deported. The children went with their mothers. If those children are U.S. citizens, they could come back into the United States if there's their father or someone here who wants to assume them. But ultimately, who was deported was their mother. It was their mothers who were here illegally. The children just went with their mothers. But it wasn't like, you guys make it sound like ICE agents kicked down the door and grabbed the 2-year-old and threw him on an airplane. That's misleading.
Yeah.
That's just not true.
Just to be clear, because I do want to get to the overhaul at the State Department. Is it the U.S. policy to deport children, even U.S. citizens, with their families? And I hear what you're saying, without due process. Just to be very clear there.
Well, No. Again, if someone's in this country unlawfully, illegally, that person gets deported. If that person is with a 2-year-old child or has a 2-year-old child and says, I want to take my child with me, well, then what? You have two choices. You can say, yes, of course you can take your child, whether they're a citizen or not, because it's your child. Or you can say, yes, you can go, but your child must stay behind. And then your headlines would read, U.S. holding hostage 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 7-year-old, while mother deported. So the parents make that choice. I imagine those 3 U.S. citizen children have fathers here in the United States. They can stay with their father. That's up to their family to decide where the children go. Children go with their parents. Parents decide where their children go.
Right.
The U.S. deported their mothers who were illegally in America.
Mr. Secretary.
All right, and the fake news media is just... Over the weekend was a lot of... Marco Rubio says, of course, there should be due process, right? We pointed this out from the very beginning. Due process...
Yeah, it's warm here, too. I'm doing all right. It's 81 here right now.
There's substantive due process. There's procedural due process. We spent a ton of time in constitutional law, criminal procedure, evidence, and all the other things, talking about due process of law, what it means, and to whom does it apply, when does it apply, and how does it apply. And what Rubio is saying when he says, of course they deserve due process, is there is a process that we go through when we deport people. Everybody. There is a process. Our laws define what that due process is. They go through immigration proceedings, the Enemies Act invokes certain powers, and it's all a process. So they get notice. Now, he was also joined today by Stephen Miller. Came out and was explaining some education to the media. Here's what some of that sounded like.
Is Pritzker inciting insurrection and DOJ take action?
Well, what I would say is that his comments, if nothing else, could be construed as inciting violence. So, President Trump survived two assassination attempts against his life.
Boy, Pritzker's fucking up.
Many more credible threats against President Trump and his family.
Yeah, I'm back now.
We're seeing the spate of left-wing domestic terrorism all across.
Actually, the phone overheated for a minute, and I had to put it in front of the AC vent.
This is directly adjacent to the two attacks on humans.
I left it in the car, plugged in.
Tolerate and see allow for attacks on property, which is step away from people who are involved in pocketbooks into people's multiple
Should be good now.
homes. And you've even seen some, one example, a formerly prominent Washington Post journalist who seemed to be celebrating the murder of a health procedure, right? Health procedure. And that's what we've country where people are engaging in rhetoric and behavior that puts the lives of public servants in danger, puts the lives of conservative Americans in danger. And so that's the first thing I was saying. Or secondly, just this war that Democrat governors and mayors are waging against federal law enforcement. I mean, this is nullificationist behavior. This is secessionist behavior. But they don't recognize the supremacy of federal law enforcement in terms of protecting the lives and livelihoods of American citizens against a foreign invasion. Never seen anything like it. And of course, the result of the conduct is that they're allowing illegal aliens to go free and rape and murder their own citizens. So I can imagine having a leader in a city or state that would privilege the well-being of illegal alien murderers over their own citizens. And that's where we are right now.
I like that signal. I like that signal. Before Congress right now, the Religious Workforce Protection Act. I'm familiar with that.
Passport.
That illegal aliens should be able to be deported swiftly and quickly, and it should be as simple as, are you lawfully in the United States? No. If you are not, then you should go home. If
Yes.
in the same country, that would be the system. If you know that a person trespassed illegally in your property, you send them out of your property that quickly. Now, there are a lot of court rulings and other systems that have been put into place to slow things down, but we're going to move as fast as we possibly can to get illegal aliens out of our country. Yes.
I mean, again, TA and MS-13 they were collected around. They found a really popular drug program to see the
It's a great question. I don't have the nationalities available for you right now.
Is there the number of Africans is a lot or there is a lot?
With respect to which question?
The deportation of illegal people.
Well, I mean, it includes everyone who came illegally in the last number of years.
It's a lot of Africans.
Well, I don't have the exact percentage in terms of the breakdown, but it's certainly true that the flows of illegal immigration that came in the last 4 years included many from not only Central America, not only Mexico, but all of Latin America, and of course Africa, Asia, Middle East, basically everywhere but Antarctica.
Why not?
I don't have any other than that view.
Can you give us an update on how the president's meeting with Skip Johnson or the outrage
Yes, this is amazing. If you commit a federal obstruction crime, you will go to jail. There are explicit. It's amazing to me how the left defines democracy as that Congress passes a law, and then local officials should religiously violate those laws with no consequences.
Only if
Congress passed a series of laws over the years, making it a crime to harbor, to smuggle, to evade, to obstruct, particularly and specifically in the context of immigration enforcement.
I hope he
So
runs.
when you have a federal judge
Waste your
who
millions,
engages in
billions.
plain, direct, overt, intentional, willful violation of those federal laws, of course they'll be arrested and of course they belong in jail.
Do you know how
guys plan on targeting violent criminals, worse and worse? I'm not disputing any of the facts around the case of these women who were reported to move with their kids, but given you're looking for more money from Congress, ICE is making more beds, making more money, is it the best use of the administration's resources to going after moms with young kids?
Do you yourself have an opinion on the subject?
I'm more interested in yours.
Well, what percentage of the, let's just pick an even number, say 10 million illegal aliens. Let's say that Biden released, I think it's closer to 20. Let's say he released 10 million illegal aliens into the country over the last 4 years. What percentage do you think we should let stay here of those 10 million?
I'm not trying to do a game.
No, but I'm saying, but
I think that's the best use of.
well, hold on. But is it your view that if a Democrat president releases 10, 15, 20 million illegals into the country, they all then should get to stay forever and for all of life?
I don't have a view about what Democratic presidents do. I'm asking what the Republican president.
Yeah, so, okay, so you don't want to answer the question because you know the answer is obvious. Everyone that Biden let in has to go home. Of course. It's a crazy thing to even ask.
It's crazy.
You think we should give administrative immunity to some subset of the illegals that Biden, here's how we're prioritizing. ICE is going to continue to focus on raids against high criminal aliens. We're going to use the entire force and power of the federal government to get them all home. Many will choose also to leave voluntarily and take advantage of the CBP Home Act. But we are not going to ask taxpayers to subsidize the presence of a single illegal alien in this country. Here's another thing. Do you think that we have some sort of magic 8-ball to see which particular illegal aliens who skip their hearings, which particular gotaways are going to go on to commit a rape or a murder? How do you explain to a parent in this country when if you chose to release an illegal alien and they committed some heinous crime, why you chose to make that release? From a public safety standpoint alone, you cannot justify setting free a removable and deportable alien. Like in these recent cases, these were all illegal aliens who showed up at an ICE facility for a scheduled appointment. We'd be spending extra resources to set them free. They're already inside of the ICE facility. And think about that. Illegal aliens walked, it's a very important point. Illegal aliens walked into an ICE facility and were taken into custody. Could you imagine telling ICE officers to release illegal aliens who announce and present themselves at an ICE facility? Would any other law enforcement agency do that? If a wanted fugitive went into an FBI facility and announced themselves, would they be allowed to walk out the door that very afternoon? I mean, the whole thing's preposterous.
He's handling these questions very well.
Of course they do. Not just the Biden administration. Of course the Biden administration does, but also all of their enablers do. Right? All of the radical left immigration groups and attorneys and NGOs who aided and abetted and supported the invasion. All the Democrat politicians in Congress, like Hakeem Jeffries, who aided and abetted and supported the invasion, and Chris Murphy, and everyone in the media who knowingly lied and covered up about that invasion for 4 years. They all share in the atrocity, in the calamity. They all have blood on their hands and on their conscience and on their souls. And nothing they ever say or do will ever earn them forgiveness for that because of just how severe those violations
no, it's
people who died and suffered as a result. That's between them and they're making.
It was a weapon.
They'll be getting no forgiveness from me, I can promise.
No,
you.
it's not. He'll say. I forget the name. It's
specifically put, it's a war on democracy. President Trump is elected on a mandate to secure the border, to stop the invasion, to send illegal aliens home. You cannot have a situation where one district court judge or a cabal of 10 or 15 district court judges who are radical
his name's
left,
the same as someone else popular.
Regional courtrooms can conspire with each other to shut down the operations of the federal law enforcement function. That is not only antithetical to democracy, it is a direct form of tyranny in which the people of this country are being told that you cannot have the thing that you voted for, even when the thing that you voted for is required by law. All these individuals by law have no right to be here and must be sent home.
Right, it's the
None
law.
of the people that Biden let in have a legitimate asylum claim, have a legitimate claim to relief, have any right or basis to be inside the United States. And now we see a move by the media to say that some subset of the 10, 15, 20 million illegals that Biden let in, who, knowing they're here illegally, choose to stay here, choose to have children, that then we should take the view, oh, you beat the system, you trespass in our country, you failed to leave, you failed to comply with our laws, and now you've had a child, and now what, you get amnesty for life? And what we should ask, what, a laid-off worker in Ohio to now pay for welfare for your entire life? We should ask somebody who lost their job under a factory that closed down under Joe Biden to provide you with free education and free health care. You should wait an extra hour or 2 hours when your kid is sick in the emergency room because we have hundreds of illegals getting frontline care at an ER because they don't have health insurance, they don't have a job, they don't have any savings, they're here to live off of us. But we should ask struggling Americans to pay for all of that. The whole thing is obscene and it's absurd. I can't even imagine how much time we spend debating.
Let's go.
How much generosity, how many billions of taxpayer dollars, how much amnesty, how many
Hey, Dio.
give to people who chose to come here illegally and take from us and our people. The whole conversation is absurd and offensive. Not right now, yes.
Baby, he's on fire right now. All right, so we're going to let this play out a little bit, see where it goes.
Public opinion on your side, you risk losing hearts.
Well, even a CBS poll showed overwhelming public support for mass deportation. Support for deporting illegal aliens is overwhelmingly popular, as is shutting down welfare.
Yeah, safe travels.
As is removing criminal threats, as is dismantling foreign criminal gangs.
I'll send you some pictures later. You too, Eggsy. Of the grandson.
The entire political party devoted singularly to the defense and protection of illegal aliens in general. And
I've been super busy
Whole industry.
dealing with unemployment bullshit, and looks like I might not be getting unemployment just because I work so much. It's fucking ridiculous. I work so much because I have to.
We're not even close to what we need and what the president expects. There's much more that we expect from Mexico, particularly in regard to the fentanyl threat. Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're like, well, you can live on that. I'm like, but I wasn't living on just that one, these 2 part-time jobs. I was living on a full-time job plus those 2 full-time jobs.
Not stealing persons.
A check.
Fucking assholes.
$2,000, whatever it may be, $3,000 to leave the country. You're saving taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's also saves money relative.
75% of my income is gone.
And physically arrest them and deport them, which of course people still do. So the plan.
But because of my 2 part-time jobs,
stay here unlawfully, you will be fined.
I may not got approved. Even though millions of people got approved during COVID for nothing.
That's the law that Congress passed, the law that we're being told we shouldn't go work. That's democracy. Apparently, the media says we should ignore the laws Congress has passed.
I don't see Jacob. Hey,
You
Jacob.
face arrest for illegal work. You face arrest for document theft. You face arrest for failure to register as required by law. You face arrest for evading or obstructing your removal.
Yeah, but I can't pay my bills.
Location and time and place of our choosing.
And luckily I have savings, but fuck them.
All of your assets.
That's only because I'm a responsible person.
Choose to book a free flight and get a check and go home.
And you never know what's going to happen.
With your possessions, very happily, and live your life in your home country. It's time for 2 more questions. Yes.
You live according to what you make, right?
The FBI released.
I mean, I can roll back a lot of things, but there's still going to be a lot of things that aren't going to be paid now after the savings is dwindled.
This is horrifying and it's terrible. This is a foreign terrorist organization.
Hey, Mr. Castro.
Control of an adversarial foreign regime, and we hope and expect that we'll be allowed to remove these terrorists from our soil as quickly and expeditiously as possible, unless we right, is operating under a TRO, a temporary restraining order, on ruling that was issued. This is in effect. I don't understand the question. I'll take one more because that question doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a dumb question.
Only 139,000 so far.
Okay, I'll take these two. Yes.
Can you?
I'll get you and you. No, I'm not shocked or surprised.
If you want to do a million deportations, certainly it's around 139,000. So a million.
Well, the rate of deportation is increasing every single day. Remember, we inherited the system that was completely shut down. It was completely broke. And now President Trump is working with the overwhelming backing support of the American public.
Well, I got plenty of dandelions in my front yard.
And once we clear away,
they're supposed to be really good for you.
Junctions, we'll be able to operate with an even greater degree of force and speed. And so I think we'll vastly exceed that.
I've chewed on one before. They're pretty bitter.
All of the self-deportations that are occurring will continue to occur. And once you're able to begin applying these increasingly significant consequences financially and criminally for illegal aliens who choose to remain, you will see even faster and quicker voluntary departures from the United States. Bottom line is that the president is going to continue and expand and accelerate to remove from our midst people who have no lawful right to be here, and will do so without apology. Thank you.
Fast 60, 1 million or 139?
All right, that is Stephen Miller, and that guy's built for this.
Stephen Miller, that's his name.
Genetically engineered to come into this position and to deport people from America. That guy has his handle on policy in a way that I think even a few people in the administration don't, and he can communicate it just as well. So we're glad to see Stephen Miller out there quickly becoming, I think, one of the most effective people in the entire White House, coming out and explaining how it works. Even the media can't debate it because they don't know the difference between an order of removal and an order for withholding of removal. Like we saw with the Kilmore case, they have a very difficult time with these concepts and the nuance, and Stephen Miller crushed it. So he delivered, and what we're seeing is a full effort to secure America against the damage done by Joe Biden and his administration, and it's happening one at a time. One criminal rounded up after another. 2 people now in custody as a result of the purse theft. Kristi Noem gets her purse back, and America gets 2 criminals in custody. All right, so good stuff over there, my friends. Now we got 2 other updates, shorter updates, but still good indeed. And this one is about Tish. Big Tish gets hit with another bar complaint. We've already covered one coming out at her, courtesy of someone who's a local politician there in New York. But now, America First Legal sending in another complaint to the Committee on Professional Standards. And Tish, who's now suspected of multiple various allegations of mortgage fraud, now under scrutiny for her law license as well. In addition to prospective criminal charges, let's take that law license away from her since she's a fraudster trying to scam the public by getting beneficial loans at everybody else's expense. So here's what America First Legal says. All right, we filed another bar complaint against Tishy. Following the DOJ criminal
I've never had dandelion pie.
The complaint says she committed mortgage fraud.
I've had dandelion wine before.
Falsified bank documents and more. Now,
I gotta say, it wasn't that great.
In this X thread.
It's probably good for me, but
14th, if you recall,
a lot of things that are good for you don't taste that great.
Sent a letter over to Tish saying you falsified a bunch of stuff. We've talked about it. She had the 2 main issues, of course. One was saying that a 5-bedroom property was actually 4 bedrooms, so she could qualify for a better loan.
So sweet and savory, basically.
The other story was about her claiming that a second property was actually a primary property, so she could get a better loan. Now, their criminal referral already laid out several things: wire fraud, mail fraud, bank fraud, false statements, and more. But in 2023, they saw this. America First says, James sought to purchase a home in Norfolk, Virginia, declared it would be her principal residence. Right there. I hereby declare that I, Big Tish, intend to occupy this property, along with my Tish, as my principal residence. All right, we'll let you both move in here. So New York sitting AG, they say it's highly unlikely that she...
I love okra.
However, declaring it her primary residence.
Yeah, I love fried okra.
A lower mortgage interest rate. Look how far away that is, Tish. You're not going to drive down there. The referral also alleges that in 2001, she falsely reported to the federal government that the number of housing units in the building were different than what they were. There's more documents on that, right? 5-family dwelling is what the property is. And it's really, she's been calling it a 4-unit building to get better loans that apply to 4-unit buildings to 5. But in 2011, when refinancing, she reported that the building only had 4 units. Making it eligible for home affordable modification plans. More documents right there. She applies for it. Dwelling only 4-family. Busted. Mortgage rate. Letitia James. In 2019, when she referenced the property again, she reported that it only had 4 units, qualifying her for a mortgage through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. If it was 5, she wouldn't have gotten that loan. There it is again. So the documents come out saying if she took actions, all that, if that's true, she violated New York ethical rules, obviously. Big Tish violated Rules 8.4b. She violated 8.4c. All of the New York rules of professional conduct, and she needs to be sanctioned accordingly. America First says Rules 8.4b and c say that it is prohibited to engage in illegal conduct that adversely reflects on the lawyer's honesty, Tish, trustworthiness, or fitness as a lawyer, or conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, and misrepresentation. Can't do it. Rule 8.4 says so. Sorry, Tish. As AG James tweeted about that, Tish, and you're now next, says America First Legal urges the Committee of Professional Standards to investigate her, and here is what got sent her way. Over to the New York State Bar Committee on Professional Standards, referencing Big Tish James. They say, all right, this is America First Legal Foundation writing, and we're writing to file a bar complaint against
I don't agree with that,
Tish
but
James in all of New York.
It should be in federal prison.
Tish James, the Attorney General. On April 14th, Pulte from Federal Housing sent a letter to Bondi and Todd Blanche saying that Tish should be referred to criminal prosecution, as we know. Now, as shown below, the evidence indicates that she filed false bank documents, property records, and more to get favorable loan terms. Now, while serving as the AG for the state of New York, she purchased a home in Virginia and said that she was going to make it her principal residence. This meant that she would live there in Virginia full-time. Can't do that for the AG in New York. Now, the obvious reason for making the certification was interest rate. Now, additionally, on another occasion, she said that there were a number of dwelling units and misrepresented the number of units in the building that she owned. Also got mortgage refinancing at a much lower rate. And here's the truth. First, Pulte's letter shows that she purchased a home in Virginia through a power of attorney granted to Shamis. During the purchase, the documents say that Virginia would be James's primary residence. She then got elected as the AG of New York in 2018. In 2022, James flirted with a run for governor, but instead of running for governor, decided to run for re-election and won. From 18 until present, she's been the elected AG of New York. Unlikely that she ever planned to be a full-time resident in Virginia, but got it anyways, and then got a nice fat loan on it. But then, the second part of this is Bill's letter provides other evidence that Tish purchased a multi-dwelling unit with 5 units listed in the certificate of occupancy. We just posted another video this morning.
A lot of flat land.
It goes into further detail on this.
Trees and fields.
Sam Antar from whitecollarflab.com.
I like the southern part better, where it's a little bit hilly and mountainous.
Indicating that it was a 4-unit building.
We're over by Pennsylvania, by the Pittsburgh area, where you got hills.
We get them for 4 dwelling units. So she called it a 4. And the HAMP program was limited to 4 units. It appears that Tish misrepresented consented fraudulently the number of dwellings in her unit to get better terms. Now, as the New York Rules of Professional Conduct states, a lawyer is an officer of the legal system.
6 minutes.
Has not ever done that. A lawyer should further the public's understanding, trust, and confidence in the rule of law. Because in a constitutional democracy, legal institutions depend on popular participation in
See where that tree line is way out in front?
This is legitimate.
That's where I live.
Courts lose it, they lose their power. Which is why what we're seeing happen.
Farmland everywhere around my house, but
Problematic. Now,
where I live, there's lots of trees.
the legal profession is largely self-governing. The legal profession helps practice law.
Ditches and
So long
creeks.
as practitioners are guided by these principles, the law will be a noble
I have a crawl
profession.
space.
You get Tish in here, get Fannie Willis, and they wreck the whole thing. Going on cruises with
They're
Russian or
pretty hard to keep dry.
This is we're invoking the disfraud as the following. Something that has the purpose to deceive. Letitia's material misrepresentations meet that definition and question her candor, her trustworthiness, and Letitia's honesty. If Letish took actions...
Man, it's pretty good soil for growing, for farming.
8.4b, 8.4c, and more. Conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, and deceit. Now, the New York bar, they write, you guys, a lot of people will ask, right, what can we do about Tish and what she's...
Front yard kind of needs it. It's not horrible yet, but I want to do a high setting cut. Start the gear off. Just get the tops of the dandelions.
Saying you at least should investigate it, right? The committee has the authority to begin an investigation on this New York, and so you, the
If it hits, then
if James has engaged in fraud by deceiving her lenders and in certain professional misconduct,
they're getting ready to start planning here.
Now, Bill Pulte's letter identifies her intentional misrepresentation through her own declaration that she intended to occupy the property in Virginia. And at the time she declared her intent to make that her principal residence, she was the Attorney General in New York. Now, additionally, the year before that, James made this declaration. She also ran for re-election in New York and won. After serving less than a year in her new term, unlikely she's going to move to Virginia. There's no public indication she ever intended to move there anyways. And the New York Constitution says you've got to be living here in New York for 5 years if you're going to be the AG. It requires her to live there. If she occupied Virginia, she would have failed to continue being a New York resident and would have been ineligible to hold her office. So she could live there without forfeiting her position. So if James was intentionally deceptive about making the home in Virginia her principal residence, if she intended to do that, she violated the rules of professional conduct. And if she did that to save some money, then it goes to her honesty, her trustworthiness. It's a crime of financial gain, of turpitude, moral turpitude. And if the allegations are well founded, then she's brought disrepute to the bar, which is true. She also takes her shoes off in court, as we know, which is disgusting. Additionally, Pulte's letter identifies her intentional misrepresentations through her repeated various mortgage applications or filings for government assistance, where she reduced the number of dwellings in a building she owns. If the building has 5 dwellings, as indicated in the actual certificate of occupancy, 4 dwellings, and her claims that it is 4 is fraudulent. It appears she has continued to make this misrepresentation to obtain financial benefits that she would not be entitled to. And Sam Antar went back to the record for one of those buildings that she has. Apparently it's a 3-story building. Abby Lowell said it was a 4-story building because he's an idiot. But it's a 3-story building, and then there were different family members living on each floor, allegedly. But on the second floor, Big Tish was living. There were 2 electrical hookups, meters there, and they were saying, well, why would you have 2 meters on one floor if there are not tenants living in there? So it's going to have 2A and 2B. And James's actions meets the definition of fraud. So she's actually, even a 5-unit building, she's splitting up into other, subdividing it, and maybe renting it out to Airbnb, or she's storing her Tish in one section and air conditioning it. We don't know. Miss James and her actions meet the definition of fraud, as defined under the rules of professional conduct, probably violating those rules as well. So, in conclusion, in this bar complaint drafted by a brilliant Nicholas R. Berry, thank you, Nicholas, says, Tish, as the chief legal officer of New York, she ought to aspire to the highest ethical standards. Right? It appears she has repeatedly traded in her integrity for a monetary benefit,
all right, guys,
of deceiving lenders for personal.
y'all be good. Have a great night. Peace.